Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Friday. Ooh, it's been a marathon week.
It's-
I wonder if it has been for any of you as well. Sometimes an extra day off lends itself to a bonkers rest of the week, but I'm glad to be at Friday. I'm so glad I couldn't be bothered to put makeup on. That's how glad I am to
Look
be
good,
at a
girl.
day like
Look
this.
good.
It's very kind of you. All right. So let's wrap up our week with some probing questions. What do you know about Memorial Day? If you're like me, probably not very much. So this isn't really a question, this is more of a suggestion. Watch our conversation to learn about the history of this day from one of America's newest citizens. Did you learn anything that was really surprising to you?
Yeah, and sad. I was surprised about the first one,
Yeah.
and I was saddened by the fact that the year later they made a federal holiday, moved it somewhere else, and took the credit for it. But if you think about the first one, it's worth going back to take a minute to just think about what it actually meant.
Yeah.
That some recently freed Africans who became African Americans thanked Union soldiers for fighting the cause that led to their freedom. Let
Yeah.
that sink in.
Yeah, you can imagine that it wasn't about beer and more time to water ski. It was actually about something of significance. So while Memorial Day now feels like it was 30 weeks ago, it was just 4 days ago.
You have had a hell of a week.
Go back and watch that conversation. Maz really gave us some really interesting information. So I hope you go back. So this is a combination that combines Memorial Day and June 1st, which is the start of Pride Month. So we know that veterans and members of the GLBTQIA community have higher rates of addiction, discrimination, and mental health issues than the rest of the population. What can you do to reach out to anyone you know who's part of either of these segments and just be available to them? I think when you live in the world as a straight, white, educated, middle class person, you can try to be empathetic, you can try to be aware of things, you can work to educate yourself, to be more alert to your own privilege, but you cannot truly understand how challenging we have made life for everyone else.
Yeah.
Literally everyone else. You have mental health, we're going to judge you. You're not white, we're going to judge you. You're a woman, we're definitely going to judge you. You are gay, lesbian, transgendered, bisexual, definitely going to judge you. What in the world is the matter with us? So figure out how you can be a real, educated, useful person and use your privilege for good, not to just obliviously go through the world because you, through no merit of your own, were born this way.
There is a tendency, a disgusting tendency for other people to judge people. And if you think about, you brought up the veterans and the
GLBTQIA plus.
God, I so
You
apologize.
really struggle with that.
I'm always afraid to say it wrong, and then I
know.
forget.
Anyway.
You think about the fact that the statistic that 80% of Vietnam veterans have a problem with drinking, and to be judged for being different. You had the same subset of people that judged people who went to be involved in the Vietnam War and came back and weren't even thanked. Of course they were alienated, and we're doing the same thing to people who just don't follow a stereotype.
Or whatever we've
Yeah, or-
decided
yeah.
is appropriate.
You know, love is love is love.
Yes.
And it's
Thank you,
absolutely-
Lin-Manuel Miranda, for
Yeah.
making that phrase
Was
so
that it? I
universal.
had no idea.
Yes, he's the
Oh.
one who said it when he won the Tony for Hamilton.
Oh, God bless
Well,
him.
when he won one of his, I think, 8 or 9 Tonys for Hamilton. Yes. So
Well
figure
done.
out how you can be a better person.
Exactly. That's what
That's really all it comes
that's what
down
that is
to.
about.
Yep.
Be a better person.
Could we meet for wine? if you start with that question, what do you expect will be the outcome of the meeting? You're likely to have wine whether you really want it or not. How can you alleviate the challenge? By simply saying, can we meet? Then you can order what you want. I didn't really think of it this way, except my mom wrote on the comments of, what was that, Wednesday's conversation? Why did you ask her to meet for wine if you didn't want wine? And I thought, that's a really good point. You know, if you say to someone, can we meet to eat a quart of ice cream? And you show up with a turkey, that's going to be very confusing. So if you ask to have a wine meeting, people are going to fairly assume you're going to have wine. So, can we meet? Do you have time to get together? Want to meet for a walk? There's 100 other ways to get together.
That's a very good point.
It was a very good point.
Good one, Bonnie.
Good one. All right. So, figure out how, if you don't want to drink, figure out how to ask the question without saying to people, want to meet for wine. They can still have wine. But if you don't want to, then don't. Staying stuck in our patterns, habits, and addictions is actually much more painful than growing and stepping outside of our comfort zone. Where in your life can you assess where you are and determine to get unstuck for more health and happiness? Do you have any places in your life, Dr. Mary, that you think about this now?
Where I got stuck in my addiction?
No, just are there places you are stuck now? Because it's just as easy. Like, are you stuck in jalapeno chip land?
Oh God, sometimes. I do like jalapeno chips. What someone needs to do in the food industry is make a jalapeno chip that has
It's baked.
that has no calories.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Or a bag of them only.
I think that's
amounts
called
to,
a jalapeno.
only amounts to like
Doc-
12.
Dr. Mary's
at
real
least
struggle.
like 200 calories instead of a frickin' 1,000.
Dr. Mary's real struggle is that he likes to eat a bag of chips and refuses to believe that that's 5 servings.
Yeah, I think it's a typo.
I'm sure it is. Anyway, figure out where are you stuck. And chances are pretty good you're stuck because you think it will be more scary, more uncomfortable to move out of wherever you are stuck towards something else, when in actuality, it probably won't be. And I'm just going to go back to Shannon Morris-Jones from last week. You can decide you're going to try to get unstuck and not make a grand proclamation. You don't need to say to people, I'm giving up potato chips. You can just decide you're going to not have potato chips today.
It'll cut down.
Yes. You can do it internally, and then if it doesn't work, you don't have to backpedal. But you should at least try. At least try to move out of a negative comfort zone towards something, even if it feels a little scary, that's going to improve, has the potential to improve your life. Sorry, I have something on my nose.
You know, even just habits, they're not even bad habits, but you know, a lot of people drink a lot of soda. And I know someone who had
Or coffee, Dr. Mary.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I know someone who actually had gastric bypass but wouldn't give up the Mountain Dew.
Think about that.
And the amount of Mountain Dew this person drank, it's, you know, those bottles, when you add them up during the day, it's a couple of thousand calories.
It's kind of like a bag of chips, isn't it?
No, that's what I meant. Even little things, you think, even I think I've conquered an addiction. Why can't I lose this extra bit of weight? And then of course I had to cut out cheese and eat bags of jalapeno chips every day. So
yeah, it's disappointing, but you know, that's sort of how it works. Michael Klug, thank you, Michael, for joining us yesterday.
To talk to you yesterday.
I've hardly laughed that hard through mental health conversations probably in my life, so it was lovely.
I felt a bit guilty.
I didn't.
Because it was such an interesting and funny conversation.
I didn't, Michael, because you're that joyful.
You are.
Michael was our guest this week. He talked about social anxiety and the scrolling loop of second guessing that comes after nearly every exchange, every encounter, including, he indicated, the one that we had yesterday with him. Do you suffer with that same challenge to any extent? Michael talked about needing to go into deep hibernation to recover from social exchanges. How do you manage any anxiety you might have? So, Dr. Mary, we've talked a lot about this, but not really on Daily Dose. you had a lot of anxiety about showing up socially as a non-drinker because you had convinced yourself
Yeah, I was.
that as a sober person you were boring as dirt and that the only time you were fun was when you were drinking.
Yeah.
Which, just as a side note,
That's
is the
completely
exact
opposite,
of what was true.
I've
He
been
was
told-
not at all fun as a
I've
drinker.
been told by many a person over the last 4 years that.
Way more fun sober.
And I
So-
just thought I was boring. And then I told Dana I felt like I dressed as an accountant, like an accountant.
Sorry, accountants.
Sorry, accountants.
So, what have you done to mitigate that besides just listen to me tell you
was
over
gonna
and
say,
over and
no,
over again?
You know, I listen to you. I trust you implicitly. So when you want to tell me something, you tell me. So
Good or bad?
good or bad. So I just had to listen to you. I listened to other people. I was a wallflower for the first year in AA because I one of the things I didn't do when I was drinking was listen to anyone, of course, which is not. It's part of it's one of the symptoms. But so I had to listen, and what I listened to was everyone else saying. More people ask me to go out with them because now I'm not that out of control loud idiot that thought they were funny.
So in your case, it really was just practice. You had to practice going places, feeling uncomfortable,
Yeah, and then
recognizing it, and seeing how it went.
and then the reaction from other people who were
Yeah.
actually very kind to me as well. So thank you all.
Yeah.
Was I started started thinking, well, I've got to be interesting, and that helped.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. Even interesting people are boring sometimes. I think I'm incredibly interesting and I'm boring. I've had many a boring conversation started and held on to by me. So, it's about sort of the whole picture, not the individual picture. All right. Last question. It's absurd. Michael used that phrase a bunch yesterday and said that it's a phrase he uses a lot. The word absurd is defined as wildly unreasonable, illogical, or inappropriate. But absurdism, as a philosophy, as an art movement, refers to the conflict between the human tendency to seek inherent meaning in life and the silent answer of the universe in which a harsh truth arises that there is no inherent meaning to life. So, if you think of it that way, we are questing for the meaning of life, and the universe is doing this. The universe is basically a petulant 7th grader. Not a judgmental one, just a petulant one. Do I matter? No. So if you think of it that way, then it's not negative. It's not passing judgment. It's just is. Is a glass of water inherently interesting? Nope. I'm not judging water. It's just not. It's just what it is. Now, if you've been walking through the desert and you're dying, then probably it is. But for the great majority of us, water is just water. We don't even think about it. We don't judge it. It's a non-thing for us. If you could think of your life being absurd as a non-judgmental thing, it's just a state of being, would that help you stop judging yourself and just be? What if you just could be? What if it was okay to be boring sometimes? What if it was okay to, people in my life laugh at me because I really go to bed about 8:30 on a late night. So everybody knows that if they want to see me in the evening starts pretty early for me because by 8:30 I'm done. So I could feel judged about that. I'm sure there are people who judge me for it. It's kind of absurd. I don't care. What do I care? Judge away, don't judge away. It's just my reality.
One of the things I find interesting about you are tight. You get up early,
Yes.
you work all day, and then you are tight. But when we go out and we pretend that we are actually grown-ups, and then Dana does fantastically, and then she goes, "Mazzy, what's the time?" I said, "It's 10:30," and then a psychological switch kicks in, and instantly she's
I'm done.
done. oh, I have to go home, and then you collapse in on
Yes.
yourself like a 7-year-old.
Yes. Yes. And I don't judge it. I'm not saying that it's not a thing somebody could judge, but it's just a state of being.
Yeah.
So we all have those parts of ourselves that we judge or that we think are absurd or the equivalent to. What if absurd wasn't a negative thing? What if it was just a thing? And that was the end of it. Wouldn't you be happier if you were just being whatever you are? You were just being.
Well,
You wouldn't feel so much pressure to enhance the fun, however that comes about. You wouldn't be so inclined to judge other people.
and then other people will feel better if you don't judge them.
And you will too. I don't judge people for not getting up as early as I do. You want to sleep all morning? Good for you. That's not what I want to do. End of story. So, have an excellent weekend. I think it's going to be really hot here.
It's going to be brutal here.
So, stay cool.
Actually, if you like 100 plus, there's no. It's supposed to be tolerable humidity until next week, so
Okay.
it might actually not be that bad.
Well, enjoy it. And remember that not that many months ago, it was 40 below and cold as hell.
Yeah.
So,
And it will be again in a
Yes,
few
it will.
months, I suppose.
happy weekend. We will see you on Monday.
See you Monday.
Bye.